Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WSSEA 2024-25 fall season. We've got another exciting series for you today, a best of three as we head into week number 3. My name is Hot Sauce, and of course, in the booth with me again, the legend Nyarko. How are we doing today, brother?
I'm doing fantastic as always, and as long as I'm able to cast with you, Hot Sauce, happy to dive into this WSSEA series between SHS and Wahai Blue Devils. This is going to be a very interesting one. I cast a little bit of Southridge High School before in a different game here in WSSEA, but let's see how their esports infrastructure supports a big game, a team game in the form here of Overwatch. So as we get into this one, I know, Hot Sauce, we had a very action-packed but very one-sided affair last week. What do you think we're going to be getting out of this one?
Well, you know, Southridge is 1-1, so they've had at least one successful outing so far. Unfortunately for Walla Walla, they've had a little bit of a tough start, 0-2, but they have faced some of those tougher teams. So I think this is a really good testament for Walla Walla to come out here and prove themselves and potentially grab a dub. Obviously, though, Southridge going to be equally as hungry. They don't want to fall too far below in those positionings for Group C here. So I've got my fingers crossed. I hope it's going to be a close match either way.
Yeah, we're only in week 3, but already the battle lines have been drawn. We have the top contenders. We have the people still looking for that first win coming through. So I do want to see a lot of action out of both of these teams. I want to see, even if one team begins to lag behind, maybe just from the stats we've seen so far, that they are able to at least demonstrate a fighting spirit that could give them an opportunity later on in the season. Looks like we're already about to jump into game number 1 here. Right now, we're hovering Circuit Royale, but I was juked in the past. So while I wait to see what exactly we lock in, Hot Sauce, I think it is probably best that we move over to thank our sponsors that makes the WSSEA broadcast possible. First place I want to give a shout out to is, of course, ZOTAC Gaming. Thanks to their incredible support, we've been able to broadcast this to all of you, and they've been doing this for quite a while now. Getting into the collegiate, the high school esports space is really an honor to have them powering us throughout the course of so many broadcasts over the week. Let's show our appreciation to ZOTAC Gaming by giving them a shout out on social media. So make sure, if you want to talk about them, that you join their community on Discord, and don't forget to use the hashtag powered by ZOTAC or ZOTAC USA when you post. Type !ZOTAC in the chat for more info.
Absolutely love it. Huge shout out and a thank you to ZOTAC as well. And of course, today wouldn't be complete without thanking LANFest as well. They continue to build healthy communities through gaming with over 23 different chapters across 18 different states here. And there's over 150 different events a year. So please go to LANFest.com. Make sure you check out the Washington chapters, Inferno Land, Emerald City, and that way we can hopefully find an event near you as well.
Well, it looks like we have in fact swapped maps so far, Hot Sauce. I don't want to speculate too much, but the Havana pickup here could be interesting, particularly if we are operating with a team that is still trying to get their bearings within the world of Overwatch 2. Because I gotta say, first point on this map, real Noob Stomper can be very, very difficult to navigate given those long sight lines, given that there's a lot of places for snipers to hide, and if you're in an aim v aim war, that is oftentimes the first way that better players are just able to run roughshod over their opponents.
Yeah, we see a lot of Widows, a lot of Ashes and things like that here. And obviously, you know, sometimes we see a lot of these brawly comps that once they find those first picks, some teams feel comfortable pushing all the way up to that door, which can be very, very dangerous. But it is something that we see, especially a little more in these high school leagues as well. So we are going to start off, you know, looks like Havana, but at a minimum with Escort. Once we get through Escort, we will head on to Push. If we need that third map, it will be Hybrid, which is another one of my favorites as well. And then, of course, if there happens to be a tiebreaker, it would be Control. But I typically like the maps that involve the payload a little bit more. However, with that new introduction of Clash, I am a big fan of Clash, and I didn't think I would be because I typically don't like their Flashpoint or the Control as much.
It's interesting. I feel that between you and I, each one of these modes is kind of our favorite. So we like separate modes, and therefore by our powers combined, we will be able to think positively and talk positively, because I gotta say, not a huge fan of Clash. Haven't played a ton of it, but also at the same time, it's just not really the thing I'm feeling. On the other hand, I love Flashpoint, actually. Now, maybe the maps could be refined just a little bit, but as far as it goes, Flashpoint, high tempo, really excited to see how high schoolers navigate that situation, and I'm sure we're gonna be broadcasting that eventually, Hot Sauce. But for today, like you're talking about, what is on the cards is a lot of our traditional traditional modes here, starting off with this full escort, this full push map. What I want to see coming out of, I believe to be the offense in the side of Southridge here, is a really smart start that gives respect over to a team that, like I said, can just camp in the clouds out there looking for those opportunistic picks. I need to see them stagger, move in a solid manner where that tank is absorbing a lot of the abuse, and that gives the angle for perhaps even Assassin to come to the table.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things is just watching these compositions being chose here at the beginning of the game, and then also kind of watching how they look to counter each other. As you mentioned, especially here in the beginning, super long sight lines. Those Hanzos, those Widows, Ashes, things like that come into play. We do see a Sigma here as well, so that shield nice up out front can obviously provide some value. D.Va on the other side of things, so a good little mixture of different characters throughout this one. I don't think we have a single mirror here.
And to note, it actually looks like it is going to be Wahai Blue Devils who are going to take the point and go for the attack here. I was going to say that Symmetra is a pretty interesting pickup. I think it actually still is here, but we're going to see whether or not Seracer on this for the blue squad is going to be able to bring value out of it. We got this double camp here. I think this is actually kind of smart, using this Symmetra teleporter both as a way to sponge away some amount of DPS to allow for Jay to Sweaty to maybe get a shot off, combined with the fact that he can use it as a means to get the Widow out of there is really cool. Already we see that shove coming through. D.Va working very close to the point right now rather than trying to dive on in. Makes a lot of sense. Lisa and Yomi, I don't know how exactly to pronounce that one, but you're gonna have to help me on that front, is jamming the Sigma here, just working to play deliberately, trying to buy a ton of space there right center stage. And meanwhile, waiting in the wings up here, we got Pillow on the blue side looking for the angle. Already we got a member picked off from the side of Walla Walla High School. Graham Crack going to be able to res the Ana for the time being, and keeping both of the supports up right now is going to be immensely valuable. You need to get in there. You need to keep people topped off.
Yeah, I got to keep him topped off as we see Jay getting dangerously low, but able to get healed back up here. Lisa on that front line there with Sigma, and again, just peppering in these heals from the back line as well. They have a nice, good stance here at the payload and really have slowed down that initial momentum that we saw coming out of Walla Walla there for the time being, but Junkrat's gonna fall with that. Grizzy goes down as well. Graham does get another res here, but the damage is done, and Ruby gets dropped right back down in combination with this Widow and Pillow on that Bridget there. So Racer will find two more, and with that, they find a way to pick off the majority of the team. We see D.Va out here kind of dancing around, but they really need to be careful of not to stagger out of their spawn here.
This is exactly what I was worried about for Walla Walla High School. This is an exceptionally difficult position to be in. Basically, no approach opportunities given compared to what they had right at the very start of the game. And what I'm worried about right now is the fact that it looks like SHS are just kind of winning individual 1v1s, 2v2s, things like that, with more accuracy in their given shots. The total damage that they're doing means that they're able to bully all the way up to the super forward position. And now on a flank of all things, Drizzy Killer is going to be able to fire a few shots back. Unfortunately, right now, it is still standing as a 5v5. Southridge High School's Sir Acer continuing to fire straight across as we do see Drizzy Killer go incredibly low.
And it looks maybe I don't know if there was a connectivity issue there. We could see him asking for a pause in chat. So maybe a quick technical thing to work through as we will take a quick time out here. But you know, again, we saw, I think it was Southridge kind of initially trying to find that pressure outward. There was a little bit of a push there, but it stalled out rather quickly, and now they're just doing a great job of holding this long sight line. We see him with that Widow up top, looking to lay it down. Lisa on the Sigma has done a good job at really mitigating a ton of that damage up front, and unfortunately for D.Va, they just haven't really been able to kind of get these dives into the background, and I wonder if it's because they don't have like these Lucios or this more brawly comp, that they have Hanzo who's kind of hanging back, Ana as well, Junkrat who often lobs from a distance. So I don't know how much value they're getting out of this D.Va at the moment.
There's only so far they could be pushed back to search for distance hot sauce like you're talking about. I mean, Ruby Whale to get maximal value out of an opportunistic Junkrat bump probably has to be all the way near that spawn, unable to really exert themselves on the payload. And so while it does look like in a lot of cases Southridge are playing super aggressive in a way that I'd consider incredibly risky, standing right on that payload, it doesn't really matter because unlike the red squad side, they're able to take that space, and they have a composition that is very difficult to run into. Of course, you have J2 Sweaty on that back line playing that Widowmaker, but outside of that, Ottermelon is able to keep people topped off with their Lantern. Pillow, of course, can work as a pseudo frontliner with that Brigitte, and then I think that the Sigma has been the real glue that's keeping Southridge's game plan together so far, pretty much immutable. They're about to get to ult here.
Yeah, I love to see it. I love Sigma, so I like to see him out there representing and certainly doing a great job. And I think you nailed it. Bridget able to find those supplemental heals, but able to kind of offset some of that frontline damage if needed as well, and potentially could bully some people around. So, I feel like maybe we could see a swap from Walla Walla coming here soon, just to either something to swap over to work with that diva a little bit better, or maybe something from diva toward a Sigma or something with a shield, just to allow them to maybe find some push during this first initial long sight line. Because if they can get to this first checkpoint, we do get to a lot of those little shorter, windier turns in that second portion.
All right, well, we are still paused for the time being, but I think right now what you're laying out for the strategy makes a lot of sense here. We're going to have to probably see a composition evolution as we do move deeper, if we get to move deeper on for this side. But Walla Walla has quite the difficult position to be in so early on in this matchup. Only a minute 45, this first round is flying right on by, and given that they've only budged this 26 meters, I'm a little bit worried. I really think that this round of ults that they have building up is going to be the deciding factor as to whether or not we're going to see that clock renewed, and if they're going to move on to a second point.
Yeah, this first spot in city streets is just tough. Now the walk back can be far, so if they can find a couple initial picks, they might be able to crack into to the distillery. But at the same time, I feel like J2 Sweaty's gotten very comfortable on this Widow. They're out here just peppering in these shots. So even if maybe Hanzo could swap to the Widow, just maybe for this opening pick here. Because J2 Sweaty's not really jiggling through these pillars. He's just comfortable out in the open up top here, firing down these shots. They could find that initial pick, maybe find a way to push past Sigma here and find another one and move forward. But again, as we always like to say, it's much easier said than done when you're sitting up here in the booth.
Absolutely. I mean, being in the midst of this action, getting a breather like this could allow for Walla Walla to recollect themselves. Of course, I do wonder how long they've been operating with this debilitating lag on their side throughout the course of this first round. Maybe that has been the reason why they are struggling so much. Of course, hard to work as a coherent 5-stack if somebody is just unable to land their shots or otherwise cannot position quite as fluently as everybody else. And speaking of positioning here, I do want to talk about the presence of this Mercy pick for their side. Valkyrie's about to be available. Grey Lion also has their ultimate, but I imagine that we're going to wait for the Nano Beast to be dropped on somebody who themselves is going to get an ultimate out. So right now, this Mercy has been getting good reses, but Hot Sauce, I feel like it's maybe not the best selection right here. You could get a little bit more value out of something a bit more flexy or has a bit more in the way of burst healing. I can see something like actually a Baptiste mirror coming through for the red squad side, and that could perhaps be better.
Yeah, I agree. It just needs to be something a little more versatile, because we have this diva that has the ability to dive into that backline to really work the ebb and flow of Overwatch. So, in theory, I'm sure all of these players are good on the character they selected, but unfortunately, the composition together, more specifically on Havana here, it's just tough to make it mesh, especially for this initial long sight line. So personally, I would like to see a few swaps. We know that, Overwatch is kind of like that game of chess where a lot of times good teams are constantly countering each other with those picks. But again, there is something to be said about that comfortability, especially at this level of play, more so in high school and when you're younger. You know what I mean? You feel comfortable on maybe 1 to 2 characters, so you want to at least provide something to the team and something that you're good at playing.
Definitely the case. I feel that it's also a matter of, well, we are going to be thrown over to caster camps, which doesn't bode well for our chances of getting back into the game super soon, Hot Sauce. But as I was saying, I think that at this level, of course, composition isn't the biggest deal in the world. At the same time, though, it is kind of a sneaky important aspect of the game, even at a low level. I think that even though you can kind of play anything around this kind of developmental field that we are in here in Overwatch or WSSEA, you could just make life easier on yourself by doing something a bit more meta, right? For each individual map. And this is something I talk to with people. Of course, play what you like, but at the end of the day, I think that I would much rather have someone who's 75% on a separate support if their support is getting countered right now. Even if you can't play, maybe 50% could be enough to answer back against it, particularly if the enemy team has meta knowledge and knows to target you or things like that. We'll have to see if that comes to pass, though, as right now, I do think that there are bigger issues on the horizon for Walla Walla High School than what I am talking about. So, Hot Sauce, as we continue to sit here in the pause. Other thing I was wondering is if we could get a little bit of a skin check for each of the players. I don't know if we could swap between POVs while paused in this game, but, you know, right now, this is a pretty classic Widowmaker skin that we're seeing.
One to check out the drip of everyone, you know, and honestly, they do have a lot of really fun skins in Overwatch. But you know, I know sometimes there's rules, kind of you're not allowed to select certain skins amongst different leagues and things like that too. So it's always interesting to see what exactly they do allow for. But it looks like we finally got these difficulties ironed out. We're going to crack right back into the game. 1 minute and 40 seconds left on the clock here for Walla Walla to try and find this push. And we will see a couple ults coming out. It does look like we see a swap over to the Zarya here as well.
And this is what I'm kind of worried about for Gramcrack, who has quite the crazy Mercy skin, by the way. It's that you're using Valkyrie, but you're still just hiding behind this tower, unable to do a whole lot. Group healing not going to do much, as Lisa and Yomi is going to be able to throw out an ultimate of their own. The Zarya swap, as you're talking about, is valuable, but it come too little too late is the question, as now Baptiste window is going to be activated. Seracer was killed earlier in that fight, but playing that Symmetra, we're going to have to teleport to make it back over to this battle quite quickly. While this is happening, Ottermelon and company are just opening up upon Walla Walla High School, and that's a full-on 5-kill.
Full-on 5-kill. Ruby will come in with that Riptire, though, and get at least 2 here. So with that quicker spawn, maybe they can get some value. We see Grey Lion opting to go to Kiriko as well, so maybe a little bit of that could help. But again, now we see Grizzly on the Bastion as well. They're both close to the ult with Zarya. They could potentially pair those ults together and come up with something huge.
That being said, you're going to need to get Lula's gun to a really high ult charge quite quickly here. Only 30 seconds left. Of course, OT is going to be valuable, particularly if you get opportunistic picks. Grizzly Killer going to be able to take out Ottermelon, and that means there's a whole lot less in the way of healing available for Southridge High School. Brigitte trying to forge forward here, has a rally available, activated, but trapped by Ruby Will. That's going to stop their forward advance. Still may not matter. Grey Line's picked off, as is Gramcrack, and now without any healing, the Zarya is going to be taken out, and right at the worst time, Hot Sauce. That's the end of round number 1.
Yeah, you know, and we saw J2 Sweaty rocking that Widow, quick to swap to the Soldier here and still had success. So unfortunately, I mean, we know this first choke point. It's very difficult to get by, and well, Southridge showed you why. A great job standing tall there, really working off the back of Sigma as well, who's just able to be up front, absorb a lot of that damage. And then if that shield was done, you know, if they needed some help, Bridget able to step forward, apply some of that as well. And I think the team just worked very well together. Not just the team as a whole, but the composition as a whole.
It's not a whole lot of space that can be ceded back by Walla Walla High School here, Hot Sauce. This is a worrying start to their attempt at getting a number on the board here. Unfortunately, it could just be the case that SHS runs right over them. So with that in mind, I need to see a really strong showing coming out of the Wahai Blue Devils. They need to be able to front stack in a very similar fashion as SHS did on defense. Looking at their comps here, I think that this could be one in which they do it. No shields is a bit worrisome, but Lil is good is going to go back over to the Zarya.
Back over to the Zarya. Maybe was feeling a little more comfortable on that. We see Graham to the Moira as well, which which I'm certainly a fan of. On the other side of things, though, Otter swapping to that Lucio and looking to maybe gain a little bit of that speed with that Diva there as well. Pilla on the Moira. Jay is going to start with that Widow. Had a lot of success early on defense, so we'll see if they can kind of maybe channel a little bit of that sniping action here on offense as well.
Classic Ruby Whale gonna go for the cheese strats coming right out, and that is gonna be a trap onto a squishy member. Seracer running right back into the spawn, so that's a little bit of a stagger, but still, Lisa and Yaomi is able to buy a lot of space, jam the Diva themselves using that projectile barrier, all ready to absorb a lot of abuse. And so far with this payload inching up, now Lisan is gonna be able to go on a bit of a dive, trying to excise Grizzly Killer from this area, hack on them. Seracer trying to focus down the bot, gonna be taken low as well, as meanwhile in the backline we see Gramcrack just firing off healing, trying to play around this corner to keep everybody topped off.
Looking to keep him topped off, but it's
no.
Lisa who finds the first one on the Bastion, and with that, we'll have a little success. Pill able to clean up on Moira. Moira action, gets Kariko as well. Stripes in the kill feed as Ruby finds one, but J2 sweaty, quick to trade it out, and Cereza will collect the tank as well, and already making a huge statement here in game number 1.
And that was a blazing fast victory coming through for SHS to move up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. There's not a whole lot of space left for Wahai Blue Devils to make a comeback. I gotta say, that was an incredibly strong showing coming out of Southridge. And we're gonna look at Lisa and Naomi go in and get that play of the game on the Sigma. I don't think I've ever seen this Sigma skin. Is it you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen it either, but I love it. I mean, a Captain of the Seas singing the melody, absolutely out here, just slinging the pain. The 5-player kill streak on the screen as well, and just a great performance, not only from Southridge, but from Lisa in that front spot there as well. So the only thing that worries me a little bit, Nyarko, is a lot of times, we might see a team that is not as good at escort, but maybe they are a little better at control. Well, unfortunately, every map to start here is some form of push map. We had escort, now we're going to push. If they can pull off an upset, it goes right back to hybrid, which is, a little control action sprinkled on the front of that payload. But so that does worry me just a little bit for Walla Walla.
That being said, the thing with push is that both sides come in with equivalent space, while on the other hand, when you're doing an escort map, one team is starting with maximal area to fall back to, while the other team is going to be jutted straight into spawn if you're not careful. And I think that was something that was really crippling Walla Walla High School's chances. So now as we move into this push map, I think that maybe they're going to be able to play a comp that is a bit more fitting to them. I think that the characters that we've seen locked in so far are also ones that thrive a little bit more in the chaotic push setting. So I believe that they can do something against Southridge High School here to stop their roll, and they better, because this is going to be a tough one otherwise.
Yeah, I think it is going to be tough. I do like the swaps that came out of Walla Walla. Unfortunately, they just really didn't have a lot of time to work with them initially on that final 40 seconds when they made that swap. And then, of course, on the other side of things, there wasn't a very far push to go. So we really didn't get to see how much value they could get from those changes. So hopefully they can get a little more, like you said, a lot more of an equal footing here to start things off. So far, it looks like we might head to Coliseum, but they like to toy with our emotions and our heartstrings up there. So I better not say anything too for sure just yet.
Well, there aren't too many push maps all around, Hot Sauce. So my question to you is, do you have a favorite one out of the 3 that we have right now?
I mean, I like Coliseum. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of push. Like I said, even though I like escort, I like hybrid. I think Clash is right up there for me as well. I enjoy that one. But the other ones, I'm just. It doesn't really bother me. I'm pretty easygoing. It's the same in Valorant. There's a lot of maps that people hate. I'm like, I enjoy most of the maps, to be honest.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm actually kind of with you. So my hypothesis that would be able to fill in each other's gaps is not true. I, too, am kind of down on push in general. That being said, Coliseo's fun on Lucio. The rollouts you can do are really sick on this map. You can build a ton of speed in that little tunnel right by the titular Coliseum as well by bouncing off of all of those different columns. So we're going to see if somebody locks that in. I do know that Southridge High School had a Lucio locked there for that second round in game number 1. Not like we got to see a whole lot of it, because that was a speed run, I gotta say.
Hey, maybe it was the speed from the Lucio that allowed them to push so quickly, but you're right. We did see a Lucio there briefly, and again, when you're on equal playing ground like this, it's certainly benefit to get out there, get quickly, and kind of give yourself any additional advantage that you might be able to snatch away from the other team. However, that is not going to be the case here. No Lucio. There's a hamster ball out and about, though, and going to be going up against the Orisa. So again, a nice little mixture of compositions. We saw Lisa on the tank prior, but now swapping over to DPS, going to rock that May, and Cereza will be stepping up for that Orisa or that tank slot. And I do believe I saw on the website at least that Cereza is the captain of this Southridge squad.
It's interesting that we are getting role swaps for both teams. Ruby Whale was on the Junkrat earlier, so the question of how they're moving over to the ball and why they're deciding to do so for this map is something that I have up in the air right now. It's a little bit of an unanswered quantity, and Ruby Whale just runs straight in there, dies immediately. Cereza, maybe this was the wrong call by Walla Walla.
Hey, you know, maybe taking a little gamble. If you're going to find out it's the wrong call, at least you could do it within the first 5 seconds. But you know what I mean? Sometimes things happen. With that May wall, they might not have expected May to be there as well to cut the team off. So maybe looking to give it one opportunity. But Gray dangerously low, and it's going to be Otter who finds the 2K, looking to push for more up into the face of the action here. Jumping around, applying those supplemental heals while continuously peppering in the damage, and already looking very strong is Southridge.
I do think that if Ruby Whale is capable at maneuvering ball, that it could be good for a team like Walla Walla, who I think overall is struggling in their individual positions, because the amount of time you can buy just by sitting on point and not dying could easily give more opportunities for the Blue Devils to come back in this one. That being said, if Ruby Whale dies and they start staggering, this could also just doom their team. Grizzly Killer is dead again, and now look at how deep Seracer is able to push all the way towards the enemy spawn. Great pin! Lifeweaver, you're going to be able to get the Moira on out of their Graham Crack close to an ultimate, but Seracer is already there and can look for more. Going a little bit low on the stairs. Tracer moving forward, trying to burst them down. Here comes the heals in kind. Ottermelon also up to their ultimate. J2 Sweaty about to go for the Death Blossom, as Pillow has their ultimate available as well in the form of the Rally. 4 stacked, and Lisa Yomi is going to throw out the Blizzard early in this one. 2, 3 now dead. Make it 4. Walla Walla High School can do absolutely nothing to stop this team.
You know, and this is beautiful from Southridge, right? They have the hamster back there being a nuisance. What's Arissa do? Says, hey, guys, let's forget about it. Pushes up the steps into the back line, finds a couple initial good picks, and then continues to pick apart the team. The ball opting not to come back and help out, looking to buy time on the point, finds themselves all alone as then Seracer turns around and collapses. A really standout play here by Southridge.
They are going to be able to get to that midpoint of the map here. The slow climb up this ramp into the mainline push is the time where you often see the reversal of fortunes, but let's see if it's going to come out here. Double kill for Ruby Whale coming off their minefield. Great stuff to start out this fight as this bot tries to charge on up. They're even going to be able to take out Seracer as well. Finally, a breath of fresh air. The question is, how many meters can you get before the entirety of Blue Squad comes right back to answer? We do have the full walk down into this main map of the Coliseum once again. A mountain to climb right now, but Walla Walla High School has time with which to do it.
Yeah, and luckily Seracer was, I think, the last one dead, so it was the last one to respawn there. So certainly wanting to wait on the tank will allow Walla Walla just a little extra time. Unfortunately, J2 Sweaty will blossom that into something beautiful. Finds one. Lisa gets one as well onto the Reaper. The picks come flowing in as Pilla will pick up on the Tracer. And with that being outnumbered 5-2, you would want to consider maybe to pull back, but the hamster diving right in will be walled off by the May. And now in a world of trouble, Weaver coming to the rescue once more will grip them from the grasps of death.
Good coordination by the side of Walla Walla High School. The problem is it's right back into bot control after only 7 meters for the side of SHS. And while there are multiple low members that Gray Line has to keep topped off, and so far you have the 5 stacks set up, the problem is that SHS have just been working as such a cohesive unit so far. Grizzly Killer still doesn't have their ultimate available to try to match back against what J2 Sweaty did earlier. And now look, this Reaper's stacking up even further. Window coming out, and the hamster just has to get on out of there. Push about to commence off this midpoint now, and if they can move up to the straightaway that leads to the end of the game, I think you just take this one home. We've seen how good they are with the longer sight lines. It looks like for the time being, Ruby Whale trying to buy time, working towards the minefield, trying to get the Brigitte out of the situation. Ottermelon jump scared by the hamster, pushed deep towards the side, could be bumped off here if he isn't careful, given that rework where there's no longer that barrier there. But it looks like for the time being, Ruby Whale is just going to have to fall back, look for a new angle in the position of Graham Crack now. Gonna try to work as an aggressive Arisa, and in the terms of trying to suck people down, they're gonna lose 2 members and themselves trying to go aggressive. And now that Stagger's coming through once again. Gray Line too far in the back line to do anything to help them, and now Ruby Whale can only play distraction.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because, I mean, we see these moments of greatness from Walla Walla where they do have some success. They're able to find a push. Unfortunately, Southridge has been that consistent power to have to deal with, and they consistently push forward here as now they have not too far to go. The contingent will come in. Lily looking for one. Ruby will actually come away with a kill, but Jay and Pillow quick to find the trades as Alu is a DPS and a support. Gray will fall as well, and with no supports and a lot of trouble, Pillow swinging the face to the face. And just like that, they should be able to walk it on in. They might have room for one more contention, but it's going to be close.
Absolutely. I need to see the miracle play out of Walla Walla High School to just defend and try to get all 5 up. It looks like they're going to be denied that opportunity. Ruby will swap it over to the Zarya. Deep jump in from the Life. We were trying to bogart this bot back, and actually they are able to make it take a few steps away as Pillow goes down alongside multiple other members of Southridge High School. One less lease on Life. The problem is it may have been an overextension. Gray Line is now picked off. Ruby Will doesn't have any healing at the backside, and that is going to be the end of it. I'm sure Hot Sauce. Tracer, one last blink towards this, but with no health, they're going to get shredded by the Reaper. And my goodness, Southridge High School are unstoppable.
Yeah, and we see them trickling in, just trying anything they can to just get a contention in overtime, but just too much is Southridge, and really putting on a dominating performance here through these 2 maps. I mean, 1-1, I'd love to know who they lost to. Obviously, it's got to be one of those undefeated teams up top, but even with that dub, we'll take a look at the play of the game coming from Ruby here in the Arco.
And it's really nice to see that obviously there's still strong spots for Walla Walla. So they have this moment of glory here. They got those kills off of the mines and were able to play space really nicely. I think that maybe we could have seen a very different best of 3 if perhaps they were the ones on tank at the start of this and they were playing ball right from the beginning, working as a harasser against these things like the Widowmaker that we saw come out on Havana. Could have been a difference maker. We could be on map 3 right now.
Yeah, and I think that it's good that they feel these kinds of things out early, though. It's early in the season. They have the opportunities to kind of switch these roles, change up their play style, and kind of figure out what works best for them. That way, as the latter part of the season comes into fruition, they can find dubs, and work toward that postseason as well. So, all in all, it's not an awful thing. We always say that there are no losers here. There's the winners and then the learners. And as long as you're taking away from this and learning, kind of adapting and going forward, that'll help you be successful in weeks to come.
Absolutely. I don't think that we saw any major mistakes out of the side of Walla Walla that persisted. They were constantly evolving, and while they were ultimately being beaten back by SHS, I gotta say that just comes down to the reps that SHS have as a 5-stack. How well they've been performing here also shows a lot of time in solo queue grinding away. Wahai can easily get there, can easily be someone that we talk about in Wasia.
Well, I was hoping for a little more, but unfortunately, Nyarko, that is going to be all for us today as they get 2 dubs in a row to close things out. And again, we would love to take a moment to thank ZOTAC and LANFest as well for making all of this possible. Of course, everybody behind the scenes, from Jaden to Connie to Taylor, for helping the stream run so smoothly as well. And of course, we appreciate each and every one of you at home, whether it's the students, the teachers, the parents, the friends. We appreciate everybody showing up and showing out support here for the kids that are ultimately just here to have a good time. So hopefully you guys had as much fun as we did. I do believe there is Street Fighter tomorrow around the same time as well. So we hope to see you back there for that. But other than that, we hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.